Hello, Dinara.
Hi, James.
Welcome back, everybody. So now we've got a massive text for you. So on the origin of birds. And this one is a sentence completion exercise, okay? As with all things, read through the questions themselves. So what the exercise itself. There's one extremely important piece of information. Choose one word only. So you must stick to that religiously. Okay. So if it says one word only, you put one word only. That's really, really important. So when you look at details like that, you have to pay attention to that. So have you got any other tips for a text like this?
Guys, the reading speed should be very high, even it's as you are native. So there is no luck in this task. In general, in passing IELTS, so that's why earlier you start preparing, better it is for you.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's definitely something you need to do. You need to read this as quickly as you possibly can because it's a long text. So I think what we'll do is we'll just get straight into it then. Okay, so the origins of birds. The science of evolutionary relationships has undergone a major change in recent decades. It used to be the case that all the features of organisms were important in working out their family tree. But following the work of German entomologist Willi Hennig, many evolutionary scientists now believe that the only features which carry any useful information are the evolutionary novelties shared between organisms. Mice, lizards, and fish, for example, all have backbones. So the feature backbone tells us nothing about their evolutionary relationship. But the feature four legs is useful because it's an evolutionary novelty, a characteristic shared only between the lizard and the mouse. This would suggest that the lizard and mouse are more closely related to each other than either is to the fish. The revolutionary approach is called cladistics, and it has been central to the idea that birds evolved from dinosaurs. The birds are dinosaurs theory was first developed by English paleontologist Thomas Huxley, 1825 to 1895. According to some accounts, one evening Huxley went to dinner still thinking about a mystery dinosaur bone in his lab. He knew he was dealing with the lower leg bone, tibia, of a meat-eating two-legged dinosaur belonging to the classification known as theropods. But attached to the tibia was an unidentified extra bone. On the menu that evening was quail, a small bird similar to a pheasant, and Huxley noticed the same strange bone attached to the quail tibia on his plate. He later realized that it was in fact the bird's ankle bone. More importantly, Huxley concluded that its forms in both dinosaur and bird skeletons were so similar that they must be closely related. Huxley's idea fell out of favor for 50 years following the 1916 publication of The Origin of Birds by the Danish doctor Gerhard Heilmann. During this time, Heilmann's theory was widely accepted. Heilmann had noted that two-legged meat-eating dinosaurs lacked collarbones. In later evolutionary stages, these bones fused together to form the distinctive Y-shaped bone in a bird's neck, known as the furcula. Heilmann proposed the notion that such a feature could not be lost and then re-evolve at a later date. So dinosaurs could not be the ancestors of birds. Then in the late 1960s, John Ostrom from Yale University in the US noted 22 features in the skeletons of meat-eating dinosaurs that were also found in birds and nowhere else. This reset the thinking on bird ancestry, and once again, Huxley's ideas caught the attention of the scientific community. Subsequent work has found up to 85 characteristics that tie dinosaurs and birds together. But what of Heilmann's missing bones? It turns out that not only did many dinosaurs have collarbones, these were also fused together into a furcula. Unfortunately for Heilmann, the fossil evidence was somewhat lacking in his day, and the few furcula that had been found were misidentified, usually as belly ribs. US ornithologist Alan Fiducia and paleontologist Larry Martin are two vocal opponents of the dinosaur theory. They contend that birds evolved from some unknown reptile at a time long before dinosaurs. Their reasoning is that flight is most likely to have started from a tree-climbing ancestor, yet all the proposed dinosaurian ancestors were ground dwellers. But the dino bird supporters contend that an unknown dinosaurian bird ancestor could have been tree-dwelling, or that birds evolved flight from the ground up by chasing and leaping after insects. Most of Fiducia and Martin's case against the birds are dinosaurs hypothesis is based on differences between birds and dinosaurs. Supporters of cladistics, or cladistics it might be, however, maintain that differences between organisms do not matter, as it is the similarities between them that count. Evolution dictates that organisms will change through time, so it is only the features which persist that carry useful information about their origins. Most people on either side of the debate do accept, however, that the ancient winged creature known as Archaeopteryx is an ancestor of today's birds. This is in spite of the fact that its form is distinctly non-bird-like, with a long bony tail and teeth instead of a beak. The birds are dinosaurs supporters contend that if clearly preserved feathers had not been found alongside 2 of the 7 Archaeopteryx specimens, it would probably have been identified as a small dinosaur. However, Archaeopteryx does have some bird-like features, such as a furcula and bird-like feet, that suggest it is too bird-like to be considered a dinosaur. Over the last few decades, several dinosaurs with bird-like features and primitive birds with dinosaur-like features have been found in several countries, connecting Archaeopteryx back to dinosaurs and forwards to modern birds. Sinosauropteryx, excavated from 130-million-year-old rocks in northeast China, is one example. It is a dinosaur skeleton surrounded by a halo of fuzz thought to be primitive feathers. And a reassessment of other dinosaurs reveals such bird-like features as hollow bones and a foot with 3 functional toes, characteristics that appeared over 50 million years before Archaeopteryx took to the air. And Rahonavis, a primitive bird from Madagascar, is more bird-like than Archaeopteryx, yet retains some distinctive dinosaur features, including a long vicious claw at the end of its wing. Over a century since Huxley's discovery, it seems that cladistics may have finally settled the dino-bird debate. Yeah.
So for me, this text is full of details, and I suppose they also want to check how well you can attentively read such details, even though you find them boring.
Absolutely. And so I personally think it's quite an interesting topic. So, the origins of birds. The part that I think, though, that now it is very strongly, it is widespread among scientists, the concept that birds evolved from dinosaurs. That's a very commonly held view now, I think. So there are not many scientists debating against that notion that birds evolved from dinosaurs. The part that I found very, very strange is the ones who were saying that birds' flight couldn't have developed from a ground-dwelling ancestor. Well, it's just rubbish because we know that it developed in mammals, so because bats are mammals. So and if you go back to about 70 or 80 million years ago, all of the mammals that existed were ground-dwelling and burrowing animals. So bats actually also would have come from an ancestor that was ground-dwelling. So that's another one.
So I think what can help to be able to read this type of articles, because it's an article, is, guys, to watch documentaries before.
Yes.
In general, to learn to watch documentaries. For example, you can watch David Attenborough. He's British himself, and he uses a lot of academic English. And
Yes.
So you'll be used to, for example, there are in this text descriptions which I find difficult to imagine if I previously did not watch a lot of documentaries about this topic.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, exactly. No, I think it was fascinating as well. So I think that watching documentaries is always a good idea, and it's often quite interesting. So, and I think that is a good method of learning, because fundamentally languages are methods of communication. So there'll be content in those languages about anything. So if you're watching something that you also find interesting, I think it really helps, so I think it really helps. So I think it's a good strategy.
And IELTS is academic English, and obviously people who pass it, they usually want to study at English-speaking universities, and that's why they give such articles to check how, let's say, how not only your English is good, also how your own knowledge is wide, not only specific topic.
Yes. Exactly. Okay. So this is perfect. So I think in that case, let's get started with the answers. So the first one, Huxley formulated his theory while studying a dinosaur belonging to a group called, well, I think they only mentioned one group of dinosaurs. Yeah, so it says here, he knew he was dealing with the lower leg bone of a meat-eating two-legged dinosaur belonging to the classification known as theropods. And so the answer is theropods. It's the only dinosaur group that's mentioned, actually. Next one. So theropods, just obviously check with the, so go back to make sure with a technical word that you probably haven't come up with, that you haven't come across before, always double check the spelling. Yeah, so as well, I think that's another important tip. Because you've only got one word, so if the spelling's off, they might mark you down.
Yeah.
So number 2, Heilmann rejected Huxley's theory because of the apparent absence of in dinosaurs. So where was it? So we'll go back to where they're mentioning Heilmann, in 1916. So it says here, so in the third paragraph, Heilmann had noted that two-legged meat-eating dinosaurs lacked collarbones. So the answer is collarbones, which I think, for a little bit of trivia, I think it's the most commonly broken bone, or one of the most commonly, because it's the one at the top here. So it's where that connects to the shoulders. It's a very, very common one for people to break in accidents. So it's the one up here, just below the neck, which is why it's called the collarbone. So we'll have a look at the next one. So that is written as one word, by the way. So just remember that. So that's another thing to double check. If some words where you're not sure whether it's one word or two words, look back at the text and see what they've mentioned. Fiducia and Martin believed that the ancestor of today's birds was a kind of early what? So So Fiducia and Martin, they contend that birds evolved from some unknown reptile at a time long before dinosaurs. Okay, so it was a kind of early reptile. Next one, in cladistics or cladistics, the between organisms' characteristics are of major importance. Okay, so it says here, so supporters of cladistics, however, maintain that differences between organisms do not matter, as it is the similarities between them that count. So the answer is similarities. Okay, so number 4, similarities. The dangerous on a primitive bird from Madagascar adds weight to the dino bird argument. So the one that it mentioned from Madagascar is Rahonavis, a primitive bird from Madagascar, is more bird-like than Archaeopteryx, yet retains some distinctive dinosaur features, including a long and vicious claw at the end of its wing. So it's a claw. Because, and this is a good example of where understanding synonyms is good. So there are some good websites you can check out, like the Cambridge Learner's Dictionary, which is very good for synonyms. So it's very good thesaurus as well. So, because vicious means sort of deadly, dangerous, cruel, aggressive. So they wrote dangerous as in the question. So that's it for that one then.
Yeah, great. And guys, as usual, see you in our next episodes. And which part of IELTS is your favorite? Listening, speaking, reading, or writing? Please write down in the comments below. See you. Bye.
See you.